Welcome, Player Profiler News PrimeTime. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. I'm your host, Jake Lewis. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Lewy Lewis 5. That's Lewy Lewis and the number 5. Joining me today, I have a special guest. I'll introduce him in a minute. His name is Dustin, aka Dynasty D. We got a jam-packed episode for you today. We're going to be giving you our favorite free agent signings, a 2-round rookie mock draft, and, of course, the Lewy Rookie of the Week. So stick with us for the next hour. And without further ado, let's get fantasy. What's up, everyone? I got my main man, Dustin, over here. Dynasty D, sorry. Welcome to the show. You want to introduce yourself, tell everyone where they could find all your stuff and what you're doing.
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to say it's an honor to be your first guest here. I was pretty stoked whenever you reached out to me, so thank you. You can find all of my work on X mostly at all22_FF. Also part of the Dynasty D-Gens. I do a lot of work with them. Excuse me. And I've been working with Player Profiler for the last year. Did a lot of the YouTube stuff that you saw last year on the main channel. I've been working behind the scenes to get this channel going. And actually, as of basically 2 o'clock, my new show is actually going to be coming out on Player Profiler Plus, so watch out for that. Third in Dynasty podcast, myself and the legendary ball knower himself, Chev90. So I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm living every fantasy football manager's dream.
Always, always. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, especially, like you said, you are my first guest. I appreciate you jumping on and joining me. Dynasty D, like he said, he's been doing a lot of the behind the scenes for us here, but it's a great honor to have you on the show. And with that, let's just jump into our favorite free agent signings. Did you want to go first, or you want me to lead this one off?
Why don't you go ahead?
All right. For me personally, I think it's Justin Fields. For fantasy, he's definitely my favorite free agent signing. When he got replaced last year by Russell Wilson, he was currently at QB 5-6 on the year. And we know how great of a quarterback with rushing upside he is. The only downfall through NFL eyes, he's not the greatest player. He makes a lot of mistakes. We seen it when he was in the Bears uniform. But for us fantasy gamers, hell yeah, he's great. He gives us quarterback 7 finish in 2022. He had over 1,100 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. Dynasty D, do you know how many running backs surpassed this season with 1,100 rushing yards? Off the top of your head, do you know how many?
I believe it was less than 10. If I was shooting from the hip, I'd say something like 6 to 8.
It's actually 10. You had it right. So 1/3 of the league are running backs. They're not throwing 400 to 500 times a season like Justin Fields is. So getting that production from, basically a top 10 running back and also adding the passing volume, it's great. Also, to me, this signing boosts Garrett Wilson too. These two were college teammates at Ohio State. Fields and Wilson. Wilson had 43 catches for 723 yards and 6 touchdowns in the one season they played together. This is also where Fields only threw for 2,100, but 22 touchdowns. So basically 1/3 of his passing volume went to to Garrett Wilson. And I think Aaron Glenn wants to bring a change in culture to this New York after the terrible signing of Aaron Rodgers, the drafting of Zach Wilson, whoever else they want, Sam Darnold at the time. But for Fields getting a 2-year, $40 million, I mean, that's a great deal in my eyes. Even if they decide to bring in a rookie quarterback, hell, Daniel Jones just signed a 1-year, $14 million, and he's currently a backup. He's going to be competing for a starting job, but for Fields, I think it's great for us fantasy gamers. And you know what? If he does suck, so be it. Archie Manning's waiting perhaps as a draft pick, huh? But for me, I say if he plays at least 15 games, he's going to be a top 8 quarterback this season. So he is my free agent favorite signing. What about you, Dynasty D?
I would have picked him if he wasn't already on the show sheet. I actually am a lifelong Ohio State fan and a lifelong Pittsburgh resident and Steelers fan. So last year I felt like I actually made it happen because I yelled at my TV about Field.
Match made in heaven for you at the time.
And absolutely. And I have a Fields jersey, but it only lasted from December till January. So that's not hanging up anymore. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Their new offensive coordinator, Tanner Angstrom, he came over from the Lions, but originally he was with John Harbaugh at San Diego University and was also a part of the 2014 San Francisco 49ers team with Colin Kaepernick, that whole thing. So he's in the right system. The system itself is designed for outside zone, smash mouth, run the ball. There's going to be a lot of stuff over the middle, which I think is going to be great for Fields. He has proven that he's a QB1. You can look back. I mean, anytime he has a starting snap share, or just even given the opportunity, he's been able to perform. So I can't really think of a better situation for him and Garrett Wilson. I totally agree with you. They've both played their best football together.
Yep. Definitely. Do you have another free agent signing you like, or is that the one that I took off from you?
No, I just wanted to yap about that first. I did pick Jameis Winston. Okay. I had been all over this kind of in the off season when the rumors were popping up. Malik Neighbors had, I don't even know, I'd have to pull it up, but he had so many unrealized air yards. I believe he was like first in the league. And Jameis will just chuck it. This is a fantasy football dynasty manager's dream to be able to just grab a Jameis Winston for almost nothing. Last year, he came in and gave us 6 or 7 weeks of awesome above replacement level production. And for me as a dynasty manager, I have been on the late round quarterback kick since way back. So I'll gladly take one good quarterback and then fill my bench with a bunch of Jameis Winston, at the time, Justin Fields. The plus EV on moves like that is just, you can't beat it.
Right. And we've seen even, I think the Browns actually bench Winston because he gave them a better opportunity to win than DTR. We all know he's not the answer, DTR. That's why they shipped him out. And they wanted to get a better draft pick, so they kind of tanked without tanking, if you know what I mean. And then we seen Drew Lock for New York Giants he just throws the ball up. He don't care, and we seen week 17 that Neighbors 99 yards, something like that. Just ridiculous scoring in fantasy championship games. And you could definitely see that with Jameis Winston. Hell, Malik Neighbors is down there somewhere, right? Just chuck it up.
Exactly.
Totally agree. I love the signing. Obviously, it'd put a departure if something happened with the number 3 overall pick, which in my eyes, I really want to see Travis Hunter to go there, but we'll see. what the draft becomes.
So one last thing on that too. Jameis would be the perfect bridge quarterback if they do decide there's been whispers that they might move up to number 1 and take Cam Ward.
Yep.
And if you look at Cam Ward's game and Jameis Winston's game, it's almost identical. I had been barking about him going to Cleveland to replace Jameis and how seamless that would be, but you could basically just shift that over to the Giants and keep it moving.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a lot to give up to probably move up to that number 1, but hey, you never know. We've seen different things happen. So,
I mean, they haven't been relevant for almost a decade since Eli Manning. So I'd imagine their owner is going to want to do anything it takes to make it happen.
Oh yeah. And you're thinking him and Dayball are playing for their jobs. Really. I mean, they got to make something work. But moving on, before we get on to our 2-round mock draft, let's hear a word from the Podfather and see what he's cooking up with Fast Draft.
I am proud to announce that Fast Draft now has an all-defense game called D-Up. That's right, fans of IDP finally have a real money best ball game that they can play. No more manually setting up leagues every time you want to do a draft. No. Now you can play for $10,000, $2,000 to first. Could draft up to 30 teams, all defense. And the best part? Balanced scoring, tackles for loss, pass breakups. It all factors in. Just draft 6 defensive players, top 4 into your lineup every week. It's that easy. It's so easy that this isn't just for IDP people. If you love the NFL, then you'll love this game. And for the first time with Fast Draft, you can sweat both sides of the ball on Sunday. So use your host's promo code to get a $25 deposit match, and you'll love this D-Up contest because it's about time we got one.
Fast Draft, yeah. Use my promo code. I'm sure Dynasty D's got his as well. So for this rookie mock draft, we're going to do a 12-team SuperFlex league. Say there's tight end premium as well, kind of shake things up. With that, I'm going to give myself the first pick, just make it easier for myself. And I want to hear who you actually want at number 2, Dynasty D. But obviously, in pretty much any format, SuperFlex, single quarterback, you're going to draft Ashton Jeanty, number 1 from Boise State. I'm sure I don't have to go into much detail. You probably heard it from a bunch of different other podcasts or shows, but he is my clear-cut number 1. I don't think it's going to be close. In Dynasty, to me, he's already currently the 3B. I'm considering him and Devon Achane as tied, just to be depending on where Jeanty goes. He would probably be number 3 regardless. I think he's just a can't mess prospect if you'd have one in this year's draft. Dual threat, over 1,300 yards and 550 receiving yards, elite pass catching ability as well. He's just a volume target guy. He almost gives you like the Austin Eckler type style. He could run, he could catch anything. With that, you're on the clock. Who are you selecting?
I am going to take, at number 2 overall, Ohio State running back TreVeyon Henderson. For me, he's my RB2 in the class. I know a lot of people are talking about Omarion Hampton. I myself, with Hampton, just a side note, I'm not convinced that he's as good as the tape, just because it's either he has an entire line full of Hall of Famers blocking for him, or the strength of the competition that he played against. But for me, TreVeyon is my number 2 overall pick. I think we're discounting the way that his game can translate to fantasy football. He's an above average pass blocker. His vision and burst is just out of this world. And then he has that Jahmyr Gibbs level breakaway speed. And when you pair that with the vision, maybe instead of a 15, 20-yard explosive run, he makes that last safety miss and he's in the end zone. And that is everything that the modern NFL is looking for. So I think just because of the depth of the class and a lot of the narratives, he is probably one of the better values. Just because
Definitely.
obviously I would take, 102 because we're doing this kind of as like an exercise, but you can regularly get Henderson something in like the 104 to 106 range.
Yep, definitely. I mean, like you said, he's basically Jahmyr Gibbs in my eyes. Also, another player comp to me is Aaron Jones. And once he gets out on the edge, he can score with these, as long as he makes that last defender miss. He's actually my number 3 running back. But with that, I'm going to select Omarion Hampton. He is my number 2 running back currently. At the combine, it kind of solidified to me that he will be the number 2 running back off the board. And I currently have him projected landing with the Denver Broncos in the first round, especially since they signed. I had originally a tight end, but with them signing Evan Ingram, I think it makes them shift gears and draft Omarion Hampton, a running back that could take 20 plus touches. His body is meant for it. He's a 6 foot, 214, 220 running back. He's a 3 down guy. You put power and speed combo. He's got 1,500 yards in the last couple seasons together. Or 2023, he had 14 plus 15 rushing touchdowns. Also, he's a goal line threat. So him scoring, at the end zone, that's going to boost our fantasy production. And I really like him coming in and immediately making an impact. And I believe he's going to be a RB1, especially after the first season.
I don't disagree with almost everything you're saying. The only reason I'm fading him is because of the cost. Basically, he's so close to Ashton Jeanty in value. I know that the skill sets are very close, but when I look at Omarion Hampton, I feel like he would be the prime candidate for gets drafted at the 102, slow start, takes a minute to get acclimated. Like I was saying, the gap in competition, I think that's going to show up on tape a little bit, kind of like what happened with Trey Benson last year. He actually played in the ACC also, and the first couple games he got on the field, it looked like he didn't know what he was doing. He was tripping over his feet, couldn't find a hole. And then about halfway through the season, when he got a couple games, he looked like he had the raw ability. So I think maybe it might take Hampton half a season to really get going. And then he could be like a league-winning type traditional running back like we're used to, before COVID started microwaving prospects and people just started popping off every year.
Definitely. No, I could see that too. To me, if it goes to Denver, it makes sense, especially because Sean Payton wants his guy. Last year he drafted Audric Esme from Notre Dame, but I think he wants somebody that can do the 3 down back. But, he had Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram together. That kind of can be that area, but I just like him taking 20 plus touchdowns or 20 plus touches a game compared to any of these other running backs left.
Absolutely.
You're up on the clock at 104. Who are you selecting, Dynasty D?
So the 104 for me is a pinching point, especially because it's SuperFlex Tight End Premium. And I go back and forth between Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami, and Penn State's Tyler Warren. Just because in SuperFlex Tight End Premium, those are your 2 premium positions.
Yep.
And that's a really hard one. I'll just say it. I've been taking Tyler Warren almost every time around 104, 105, just due to the fact that he has a skill set that you can't replace. And I believe now with coaches like Sean Payton, some of these other OG coaches, if you will, coming back in, you see a lot of this outside zone, wide zone, 12 personnel, smash mouth type football. You can put Tyler Warren on the field. He can play the Y, he can play the F, he can play quarterback, he can play running back. He's like the Devon Achane of tight ends. And I just don't want to miss out on that. And specifically, one strategy that I'm going with is anywhere I have Brock Bowers, I'm taking Tyler Warren no matter what. And then I'm just putting my tight end position to the side and never worrying about it again.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. You got like the next 10 years solid at tight end regardless, and you can start both of them mostly, dynasty leagues. But the big thing is you look at any of these other tight ends, they're not going to be on the field 100% of the time like Tyler Warren. He's probably one of the better pass blockers as well. And we've seen that at Penn State with 2 elite running backs that went back to school, but also can play the wildcat formation type style like you're mentioning. Gives you like, I guess, the Travis, Kelsey vibes going into that with him taking the ball under center, going up the field or anything like that. I love that pick right there.
It's almost like if Taysom Hill was good at football. Like Taysom Hill's like the guy that's 80% good enough at everything, but he can't do anything great. Tyler Warren, his potential is unlimited.
His hands are amazing too. I'm up here at 105, and I was going to select Cam Ward at 104 if I was in your boat, but just because it is tight end premium, I totally get it. It's also SuperFlex, so Cam Ward is my selection here at 105. He's most likely, if not the number 1 overall pick in the real NFL draft, so he'll have like a longer leash. His production in college, he's done it 3 separate colleges. Coming out of high school, I think he only averaged like 10 yards a pass in high school, so he didn't have many scholarships or anyone else. And so, with the transfer portal now, he went to 3 different schools, elite at each one. He's got such high upside with the rushing abilities as well. To me, I like Shedeur Sanders as a better overall NFL quarterback, but for us playing the game, I love Cam Ward, the dual threat, ability, giving us fantasy value at the running or as a runner. And I think he's just kind of got that poor man's Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson in a way, I guess, but a lot better than Anthony Richardson because I can't stand him myself. But also, if everyone's saying this quarterback draft class sucks, you could always draft him here and then trade him next year if he pops off for a couple first, or switch that value up. And I just like having set in stone for super flex leagues, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Cam Ward has very similar game to Jameis Winston when he was with the Buccaneers. He's young. He's a gunslinger. I think he's going to have the opportunity to land with a better head coach that might be able to rein some of that in. But it's basically the Jameis Winston. He's down there somewhere. I mean, in most leagues, a touchdown is 6 or 4 points. In most leagues, a pick is 2 or 1 negative. Mm-hmm. So I'll take that all day. And he does have, if I had to comp him, he is some sort of hybrid between Big Ben Roethlisberger and Jameis Winston.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
His pocket game and his mobility, he can move around, he can truck guys, but ultimately he's looking downfield to make a play. And I think that's what is going to make him end up being potentially the 101, but he's definitely going to be the first QB off the board.
Yep. I like it. You're up at the 106. Who you selecting?
Trying to keep these players straight. 106. Okay, so we're looking probably wide receivers at this point. So we're going to play along with Travis Hunter gets called as a wide receiver at the draft. He is going to play wide receiver. The team won't even speak about cornerback. So I'm going to take him. I will take Colorado wide receiver, Travis Hunter. In my opinion, if he does play even the majority of the snaps at wide receiver, he's the wide receiver 1 in this class. But regardless of that, just the possibility that Travis Hunter is going to play any percentage of corner, he should be flying up boards and we should be running to go grab him. Imagine if you had Garrett Wilson's fantasy production and then add in, let's say, who's a mid corner? Who's like a mid corner you can think of off the top of your head?
Can't even. Joey Porter Jr.,
Ooh, ow. No, you're totally right, though. So let's say Travis Hunter averages 20% of snaps at corner. He makes 1 interception every other game for 50 yards in return yardage. That's the difference between, a low-end wide receiver 2 and creeping into wide receiver 1 territory once you start to add that up.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm just seeing if he's going to be announced at the draft as a wide receiver. That's what I'd say 95% of us fantasy gamers are wanting to hear is wide receiver. It's just going to be, if he puts all his time and effort, he's the best wide receiver in my eyes in this draft. If he's 100% the wide receiver, position, he's also probably the best corner as well in this draft. So if he focuses all of his attention into one and not splitting up, like he's doing in Colorado, having both segments, I like that. 107 here. I'm going to select Quinshon Judkins, running back from Ohio State. I really like him. He's, on our player profiler, he's number 1 for athleticism in this draft class. You could check that out at Player Profiler on our website, but had a very productive, in both SEC and the Big Ten. Those are the 2 main conferences in my eyes. As an elite freshman, exploded in 2022 and in 2023. He had slightly dip numbers, but very clear talent he has. And then this past year, sharing time with Henderson, they both, I think it helps both of them because they gave each other time and rest. And also it's not as much tread taken off the tires going into the NFL where, we've seen some of these players coming out of college have 300-400 touches every single season. But I love that he can be a burner and a 1A in a committee, even taking on the lead role back. I do love him here.
Do you know how hard it is to be an Ohio State fan and deal with this 2025 draft class? I basically did my prospect, my film work and all the study backwards because I knew that if I jumped on it right after the national championship that it would be a mess. But Quinshon Judkins, he is rated number 1 in athleticism score on PlayerProfiler.com in this entire class. And as soon as I started digging in the film, he reminds me so much of Georgia Todd Gurley.
I never thought about that, but yeah, you're right. Definitely.
He is an absolute menace. I just throw my comps out there. I don't even care if people want to come at me. Some people don't want to speak on these fantasy Hall of Famers, but the game is what it is. And with Quinshawn, he's the guy that a coach looks at and says, that's a ball player's ball player. Yep. You know, he's going to bring that Isaiah Pacheco level energy to a team. He's the kind of guy that rushes for a random third down in the second quarter, and then your defense comes off and gets a pick six because everybody's ready. So I just can't wait to see where he lands. I am hoping that he doesn't find himself in a two-back system, kind of like Detroit or somewhere, not in Detroit, but, right. You know, that
along
split,
those lines,
yeah, 1A, 1B situation. I think he is the type of running back. He won't be overdrafted, and he's a prime candidate to just absolutely take over a backfield and completely wreck whatever we think is going to happen there.
Definitely. I mean, even for me, if you see one of these Ohio State running backs go to where their offense coordinator went to, the Raiders, yeah. I mean, this is going to show you he already knows what they're all about and how they're going to use them. I'd love to see that. I know a lot of mock drafts are Jeanty going there. I just, you know, for their sake, maybe draft somebody else and then take one of these deeper running backs in the second round. But
I think you just absolutely nailed it. I didn't even think about Las Vegas, but Pete Carroll loves his thick running backs.
Yep.
Woo, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Dynasty D, you are up on the clock at 108.
You can just call me D, brother.
All right.
All right. So at the 108, we had Tet, and then who did you take last? Quinshawn. Yep. Or no. I took
Hunter.
So, yeah, I guess. Man, this is tough. I'm going to have to go with Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
I can't let Shedeur fall down the board, especially in a SuperFlex Tight End Premium. 12 teams, you know, you're going to have desperate need for quarterbacks. I think Shedeur gets a ton of shade. He gets a lot of the hate and slack that comes with the name. But when you look at Shedeur's game on film, he looks like Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
He's deadly accurate with the football. And he follows that philosophy that you hear Tom Brady talking about nowadays. It's the quarterback's job to protect their receivers. It's the quarterback's job to lead the team, etc. He puts the ball where it's supposed to be. It's his guy or nobody. Yep. And he also has very sneaky athleticism, more in the vein of a Robert Griffin III, where he's going to move around, try to operate the offense, but then if that safety tails back too far, next thing you know, he's up on top of you and he's got 15, 20 yards and a first down.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it at Colorado the last 2 seasons. He's running for his life with that O-line. My player comp is Dak Prescott. That's kind of how I have him listed. I mean, very accurate, like you said, like Geno is. But I would have selected him if you didn't. So with my selection at 109, I'm taking Tet McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona. He's my wide receiver 1 behind Travis Hunter, depending on if he comes out as a wide receiver or not. His player comp to me, it might be lazy saying it, but Drake London. And if you could get a Drake London lookalike, wouldn't you? Back-to-back 1,300 yards is too hard to pass up. And he's had over 84 catches in the last 2 seasons. And since his freshman year, he's always had at least 8 touchdowns. So he is a 6'5", I think he ran like a 4.43 at his pro day. Like
4.49 adjusted.
What's that?
It was a 4.49 or a 4.53 when they adjusted it. But yeah, but for his size, weight adjusted, I mean, he's a monster.
Yeah, and his hands, and he's 75-25 catching that ball. if it's thrown up, and he's just a big body receiver. He gives you the Mike Evans type feel. I just really like him, and in the red zone presence, he's just going to come down with those touchdowns. I mean, he's proved it having 8 touchdowns in each one of his 3 seasons at Arizona.
So sans Travis Hunter, Tetero McMillan is definitely my traditional wide receiver one. The one thing about his game that goes unnoticed, I think, is he always knows where to be. He always knows, most of his career was a scramble drill. Mm-hmm. So he's all over the field. He's shifting, maybe the plays an out on the far side hash, and he knows his quarterback's not getting the ball out. So he's tailing for the flag. And then next thing you know, it's a touchdown.
Yep.
And, we talk about speed with those guys, but his size alone, it's not like a trait, it's not like hands. It's not like route running. It's like the Mike Evans thing. No matter whatever quarterback Mike Evans has ever had, he's a Hall of Famer. He's had 1,000-yard season every year of his career. I'm not saying Tet's going to be that, but part of Mike Evans' game is when it comes down to it, you just put the ball up here and there's not another person on the field that can even touch the ball.
Yep.
And then you add a vertical to that, it's basically unstoppable.
Definitely. All right, D, you're up at 110.
Okay. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State.
Damn Ohio State. Just kidding.
It's so crazy. I mean, honestly, this class is so deep. Just a side tangent for a second. I hated the narrative in the beginning that it was a bad class, but I've come to the point where this class is so deep, I don't even have much to say to chop them down. I'm just like, yeah, give me all these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But Emeka Egbuka, he is another example, I think, of classic prospect fatigue. He came in young. He dominated. He has that all-around game. I like to call it old man game. He knows where to be. He can run a slant. He can run a hitch. He can stop and go. He can come back to the quarterback. When he's running like a screen or maybe a double move, his movement patterns don't change. And the most underrated thing for him, in my opinion, and he gets dogged for this, he played with Marvin Harrison Jr., he played with X, he played with Y. People immediately go to, well, why wasn't he able to be that wide receiver one? Where, in my opinion, an NFL GM is going to look at Emeka Egbuka and say, he put up the all-time receiving record in Ohio State history next to 3 other NFL plus level caliber wide receivers. So he's another one where he's a ball player's ball player. Any coach and any team would be happy to have that man on their team.
Definitely. And he does the dirty work. He's blocks like crazy. He's one of the top, if not the top, wide receiver blocking prospect in this year's draft. Like I see him as a Chris Godwin, Amon St. Brown type style. They'll do the dirty work. Originally, I wanted him to go to Houston, but I don't know with Kirk Cousins Christian Kirk going there, if that's still an option for them. Moving on, I got the 111, and then you'll have the 112 to wrap up the first round. I got Matthew Golden. He's just growing on me. Just watching him, after transferring, he was at Houston. He looked really good. And then he transferred to Texas this past year, where they had, supposed to be one of the most sought after wide receivers in the portal with Isaiah Bond. At the beginning of the season, he kind of was getting used to the system. We see it every year with rookie wide receivers have a slow start when they first get to a team. and then all of a sudden blow up second half. And that's kind of what I seen with Matthew Golden. You know, he's slowed down, and then you seen it pop in college playoff games, yards after catch. He's just amazing. High upside transfer from Houston. Very Zay Flowers like. I guess that's how I view him. You know, he's got the speed, ran a 4.29 at the combine, and Isaiah Bond, his, you know, teammate, he was saying he's going to break the record, and whatever, he didn't. But I really like Matthew Golden. He also kind of reminds me of a DJ Moore as well. Get that, you know, in and out cuts. He's great route runner and the yak yards ability.
I really like the DJ Moore comp. Whenever you said Zay Flowers, I was thinking Zay Flowers plus about 15 pounds. So that really works. I'm going to be interested to see how Matthew Golden is deployed. His skill set is pretty diverse. I'm hoping that he doesn't get plugged in outside as an X burner type and just get sent on go routes. We've lost like halves and 3/4 of fantasy seasons waiting for offensive coordinators to realize that certain players are just on another level. But if Matthew Golden lands in the right spot, he has the game to develop into a year-to-year top 15, top 12 type receiver.
Yep, definitely. All right, give us the 112 to wrap up the first round.
I'm going to go with Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. One of the themes that I have noticed in this year's draft is basically everybody's doing what they did last year. So I have been trying to acquire as many picks in the back end of the draft, at the turn, early seconds, as these values continue to creep up. I mean, you could see we're sitting here at number 12. And there's so many more prospects that are so good. I could have taken probably 3 different guys here. But Dart has that leadership quality that you look for. He has prototypical size. He has a strong arm. He has underrated rushing ability. And for me, the single most important thing about Dart, he is going to come in to a franchise, and anything they tell him to do, he's going to say, yes, sir, and then he's going to add 10% to it. The guy has worked his tail off his entire career, and we talked about Shadur running for his life. Dart didn't really have that much better of an offensive line, and he played in the SEC where 350-pound D tackles can just fall on you and break your ankle.
Right.
So I'm really interested to see if he ends up in a development situation. There's a lot of whispers he might end up in Pittsburgh, or potentially if somebody just throws him the keys to the ship, so to speak, and just kind of lets him learn on the fly, like a la Bo Nix.
Yep. And I could see, you know, the back half of the NFL draft, somebody trading up and drafting him, getting that 5th-year option would, you know, say one of these top couple teams pass on the quarterback position, can target Jackson Dart. We're going to move a little bit faster in the second round. I'll start it with 201, Colson Loveland from Michigan with a tight end premium. He's 6'5", 240, mismatch for defenders with his ability to both block and catch. You know, this past year it's been changing in and out of quarterbacks, and he's been injured. The Michigan quarterbacks this past year was just terrible watching. I'm sure you loved it because, I mean, they did beat you guys, an Ohio State fan. But, yeah, I just really like him with the tight end premium. It's the red zone targets. I could see him going to, you know, his old coach, Jim Harbaugh, at Los Angeles Chargers. That's why I'm selecting him at the 201. He kind of reminds me also to be Zach Ertz prime. That's my comp for him.
Nice. Yeah.
All right.
I honestly can say I haven't done a single second of film or study work on Loveland. The only time I've ever seen him is when he's played us, but that's just kind of par for the course with being an Ohio State fan. A couple things I did notice with him, just from kind of looking into it a little bit. I mean, his athleticism is off the charts. He's 6'6", 250, probably going to end up more like 255-ish, prototypical size. I think the way his body composition is, he has really long legs. So he's going to struggle to be that go-to wide tight end that's going to block and stay on the field. He would probably do best to end up somewhere else where he can just be like a primary move tight end, like in the vein of a Jimmy Graham. I still need to dig into Loveland more, but nobody has anything bad to say. It's just a matter of me digging in. And in tight end premium, we've seen it back-to-back years. These rookies, they come in and crush. So You can't miss it.
Definitely. All right, D, you're on clock 2:02.
Oh, wow. I'm going to select Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden.
Yep.
I was going to take Trey Harris, but then I realized that Luther Burden just fell all the way down the board. Wow. Okay.
That's just like you said, this draft class, we're excited for it. It's rookie season for us, and you could find gems like this.
Absolutely. So earlier we were talking about Emeka Ibuka, and you were talking about Almiron St. Brown and Zay Flowers and some of these guys. This draft class has a lot of X receivers in it too. And I know as fantasy managers, we're like, ooh, the shiny toy, the X receiver. But I actually did a data dive all the way back to 2014. I looked up the wide receiver one every year, their height, weight, and their BMI. And the fact is that your Chris Godwin type, 6'1", 200 to 215 pound, BMI somewhere between like 26 to 27. That's your number one alpha wide receiver in the NFL.
Yep.
And half of these prospects are those, and they get labeled as a slant boy, and they fall down the field. But in tight end premium and PPR, with all the bonuses that we generally add to these leagues at this point, that's going to bear more fruit, in my opinion, for fantasy managers than having to always rely on someone like a Trey Harris who has to score touchdowns. Luther Burden reminds me, everybody says Debo. He reminds me of Hines Ward.
Okay.
He's like way above level athleticism and everything, but it's the mentality that Luther Burden plays with. I know he had a bad season before this draft, but he was the entire offense plus. His ADOT gets talked about, but that's because the only play in the playbook was throw the ball to Luther Burden, let Luther Burden jet sweep, maybe do a whatever, trick plays with Luther Burden.
Right.
But his hands are like magnets. His quick twitch ability in traffic is like running back level. So he's the kind of guy, I think his game has time to develop in the NFL because he can produce more than enough just walking onto the field with his raw talent.
Yeah, they definitely gave him manufactured touches, and you have to when he's your best player on your team. 203, I'm selecting Caleb Johnson, running back from Iowa. He led the Iowa backfield in 2023 and showed his ability carrying heavy workload, and he's a downhill power back with impressive vision getting to the outside as well. Solid all around. Like I said, he's a high volume goal line back as well. I thought originally he might go to like a Vikings or something like that. Would make perfect sense, especially since they struggled going from the 10 to the goal line, but with the trade for Jordan Mason, doesn't look like that's going to be a fit. To me, he's kind of the same as David Montgomery, though, type back. Strong physical, solid vision, who excels in short yardage and goal line situations. And then with you are on the clock again at 2:05, right? Is that where we're at? 2:04. Sorry,
204.
Yeah.
I'm Ron Burgundy. All right, so at the 205. Wow. 204. I'm still kind of blown away by the fact that Caleb Johnson was still on the board now. 204. Trey Harris, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Specifically, if this is a real draft, I mean, going with the Trey Harris, Jackson Dart stack is one of the reasons why, like I said previously, I've been trying to amass those picks at the end of the first, beginning of the second. Not only for that, but also, it's valuable to be on the turn as well.
Yep.
Trey Harris gets a lot of flack for being a converted quarterback, but his yards per target, yards per reception, name any metric, it's off the wall. In my opinion, having the vision of a quarterback from the wide receiver position it's an above level skill. He can help compensate for a lot of the other things that happened on the field. I think I mentioned that when I talked about Dart, maybe.
Yep.
It's just going to be a matter of raw athleticism for him, and if that can translate while he develops into a proper wide receiver.
No, I like it. 205, I'm selecting RJ Harvey, running back, UCF. Very explosive, great speed, game-changing running back. We've seen the NFL being a copycat league, and I could see somebody taking a player like Harvey, using his explosive, great and dangerous in open spaces. He's also a solid pass catcher, gives you that ability, high upside RB2, especially in PPR leagues. He's kind of like a Jamal Charles. That's kind of my player comp. Big play threat, pass catching ability, high upside. He had sneaky production with 1,400 plus yards and 16 touchdowns in 2023. Great vision and balance. I think, when we get into this point, you're looking for guys that could take that upside and give it to you in fantasy. Looks like you're on the clock at 207, 206. Man, I can't count. 206.
All right. Let me look at my little sleeper list here. $207. So you took RJ Harvey. Oh, wow. What is wrong with me? Kansas running back Devin Neal.
Okay.
There we go. I don't know. Devin Neal is one of my favorite prospects. He's done nothing but put good tape on, or good games on film. He is also another one of those guys that he has the field vision. He has the tempo. He understands what's happening on the field in front of him, how the linemen are going to play, how they're going to help him set up blockers. He's not one of those guys that is going to DeAndre Swift it and just run up into the back of somebody and hope he falls, forward for a couple yards. We talked about him actually on the recording of Third and Dynasty, Chev and I think that he is probably a prime candidate for getting drafted behind a veteran that we think secure, maybe like an Alvin Kamara, a Kyron Williams, somebody in that vein, Joe Mixon. And then within the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, he starts to get on the field, kind of like Bucky Irving. Next thing you know, the game after he gets his first snap share over 50%, he's not coming off the field again.
Yep. I could definitely see him in Texans uniform. Joe Mixon is getting older, so it's kind of the same play style. 207 on the clock. I really like this wide receiver, Jalen Royals from Utah State. Speedy, big play potential. If he didn't get hurt this year, he would have had like over 1,400 yards and almost 85, 90 catches. Utah's a fast-paced offense and allows him to see plenty of targets and explosive opportunities. But I just really like him. His elite yak ability, deep threat, like I said. He's produced over 1,000 yards in 2023 with double-digit touchdowns. Kind of reminds me of Jacoby Myers, like reliable hands, great strong route running as well, and he'll knock you on your ass when he's blocking. And we've seen that, I think, at the Senior Bowl. I believe there's videos of him just running over corners when he's blocking. I just like that mentality, and if he gets in the right system, I love his ability. It looks like 208 is yours, D.
All right. I want to make sure to not put my foot in my mouth, so just give me 1 second. I'm looking at the board here. Man, okay. I'm having a lot of trouble deciding between Cam Scatterbo, Dylan Sampson, and then the love of my life, Brashard Smith. I know it's kind of a hot take, but the way I feel about – I'm going to go with Brashard Smith here, by the way. The way that I feel about Brashard Smith, kind of getting ahead of myself. He's my rookie of the week too, but I just can't help it. I'm going to talk about him now. Converted wide receiver, SMU. He played at Miami with Cam Ward, actually. Put up a sub-1,000-yard season, but he still played pretty good. First year ever as a running back. Comes over, helps SMU make it into the College Football National Championship playoffs. And the first game that I put on was him against Florida State. And I had not seen anything like it. He transitions from being a running back to being a wide receiver like nobody I've ever seen. You know, he's running the ball, he's in traffic, he's crouched down, he makes a juke, and then he's like a transformer. He's like, whoop, and he's elevated, his posture's good, and he's gone. And then at the same time, there was a play in that game. He goes up, he mosses a guy. The worst pass you've ever seen. Guy throws it across his whole body. He goes up, mosses this guy. As soon as he landed his feet on the ground, he turned into a running back. He widened his hips, took a hit, juked a guy, and ran for 40 yards. So I am not going to let anybody else in any league that I'm in have the opportunity for what his potential could be.
Definitely.
Lazy comp is Achane, but I think he's actually developed more as a running back than Achane was when he came in.
Yeah, I mean, Achane's struggles with running between the tackles, it looks like. But I have to watch more tape on Smith. I know when we were talking about, our show sheet, you brought him up. I'm like, damn, I got to start watching more tape on him. And with your advice, I have to. It's just got to happen.
I'll send you that game I was telling you about.
All right. I'll look forward. What are we on? Like 111,
Yeah.
109? I don't even know.
Something like that. 109. 209.
209. I'm taking Ollie Gordon, running back, Oklahoma State. We gave Luther Burden the pass with his production from last season. I mean, that's the same thing as what Ollie Gordon had. His team was terrible. I think they finished 3-9 on the season, and Ollie Gordon 2 years ago was a Dope Walker Award with over 2,000 total offensive yards with 22 touchdowns, I believe. And I just think with this being this late in the draft, usually if you're drafting in this spot, you are in the playoffs. You're trying to get somebody else that can give you over the hump. And to me, if you could get a guy like Gordon looking like a Levon Bell type style, not his career, but I just like how big and upright he is when he's running the ball, physical power. I just think you have to snipe him here.
It's definitely a solid pick for sure. This entire class, if I could encapsulate how I feel about it, it's probably the most decorated rookie class that we've seen from a perspective of individual awards, college records, performance in the playoffs. But they just get discounted. And it just blows my mind because we were told this could be a generational class, and then the athletic testing showed us that they are athletically generational.
Yep.
So this class is going to flip the entire landscape of dynasty fantasy football.
Yeah, I mean, even like especially the running back class, I heard Podfather say it before. If you're in the league and you're number 2 backup, watch out because you might lose your damn job, and with these guys being younger, way less money and cap is a big thing. We don't pay these running backs awfully a lot. We see it even this free agency, no one signed a big time deal. It wasn't like, Derrick Henry or anything else was available, but these guys could easily take some of these guys' jobs, and being younger, faster, why not?
Yeah. And the other thing too is the depth of this running back class. Everyone's like, oh, the draft capital, they're going to get pushed up. But after those first couple marquee guys, I could almost guarantee the NFL is going to push that position down because there's less quarterbacks, there's less elite tackles, there's less elite D, et cetera. And then if you couple that with the amount of zone running that's in the NFL, to quote Chev, anybody can run for 1,000 yards in a zone scheme. If you're talented, you go for 1,415. And so we're going to see a lot of stuff.
Some Alfred Morris type numbers.
Yeah.
It's true. All right.
You said Aaron Jones earlier. There's probably going to be 5 Aaron Joneses in this class.
Exactly. And, if you pay attention to the pretend GM that I did the segment, I said, if I was the Cowboys, I wouldn't even sign to anyone. I would double tapped. Been like Green Bay, in 2017 with Jamal Williams was drafted before Aaron Jones. Just double tap with this amount of running backs and how good this class is. You're sure to find somebody that's going to be your starter. I just signed 2 running backs I don't really agree with, but whatever. All right, you're on the clock at 2:10, I do believe.
Yep, we're 2:10. I can't let Alec Ayomanor, I don't know, Alec. Anyways,
yeah.
Ayomanor, we'll figure out which way to say it. And then once he's in the NFL, he'll come out and tell us it's something else, A-Chain. But Alec, we were talking about Chris Godwin earlier. We were talking about the X receivers a little bit. He comes in at about, I think, 6'2", over 200 pounds. I think he's like 210 to 215. He's a raw athlete, but he's the prototypical wide receiver one that you're looking for in the modern NFL. He can also contribute in that gadget game, screen game, but that's not the entirety of his game. He has more speed than you would think. I'm very curious to see where he goes. He could be one of those wide receivers where somebody trades up or at the end end of the first round, he gets snagged just so that team can have that extra year of control.
Yep. Yeah, I can see it. I mean, my player comp is Juwan Jennings or Michael Gallup. You know, he could big physical body, make plays downfield. I mean, hell, if you watch the Syracuse game, that one hand grab and the touchdown is just amazing. All right, my last pick at 211, I am going to select. You talked about him earlier. Dylan Sampson, running back, Tennessee. Explosive, quick, twitchy. The only downfall I have about him is what I have for any Tennessee player with how their offense is set up. Wide receivers all the way to the sidelines and, giving these guys room to run. He kind of looks like Jalen Wright, with a high speed, but I like his pass catching ability a lot better than Wright's. Gives me Tajay Spears type style. I just think he's a, versatile, quick back who uses both his legs and in the passing game. That is my last selection. And you get to be Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy.
Nice. And it's perfect actually, because I'm looking at one of two Iowa State wide receivers, Jaden Higgins or Noel potentially. I'm going to go with Higgins. Again, he's another one of those ex prospects. I actually have him comped to Juwan Jennings, so that's kind of perfect. Little bit of a raw athlete, but kind of in the vein of what we talked about with Luther Burden, he has shown he can be the guy. Just because Iowa State might not be the same level of competition as the NFL, if I was a coach or a GM and I see a guy like him, rarely misses time, doesn't take plays off, and what he contributes to the team, it'd be a no-brainer. Drake London, Juwan Jennings. There's a lot of openings in the NFL. Like if you really take a look at the reality of the wide receiver 2 and 3 core in the real NFL, if you look at their fantasy points, Jerry Jeudy scored something like 14.8 points per game last year.
Yep.
And then you get all the way down to like Calvin Ridley and it's like 12. You can get replacement level production there. So look at the contracts that were just signed recently. Nick Westbrook-Akine got a contract.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, Michael Gallup came out of retirement at 29 years old, got a contract. Olamide Zaccheaus got a contract. This was the main barking point of mine from the beginning with this wide receiver class. Somebody like Jaden Higgins, with the skill set he has, the attitude he has, he can come in and take over as the wide receiver 1 in his rookie season.
Oh, definitely. And, that's just a 2-round. We still have Jalen Noel on the board. We have one of my guys is LaQuint Allen from Syracuse, running back. We got Harold Fanning Jr.
There you go.
Freaking tight end premium. I don't know how much I like Arroyo from Miami. That's another guy potentially. Jack Beck. There's so many guys that are still out here, and it just gets us excited. Tight in our pants, whatever you want to say.
DJ Giddens.
Yep, that's another one. Kansas State.
I mean, you could get Bashault Tootin in the 3rd or 4th. I mean, it's just wild.
With the speed he has, great. And so with that, we're going to just do our, we're already over an hour. We'll do our quick Rookie of the Week and get on out of here. I appreciate you jumping on. But for my Rookie of the Week, you already mentioned yours, is a wide receiver from TCU. It's not Savion. It's Jack Beck. He is my wide receiver 8 in this league, or in the dynasty rankings right now. He's versatile wide receiver who brings unique skill set to the table. A former LSU tight end. He got recruited being a tight end for LSU. He actually led as a freshman in receptions with 43 in 2021. And who else was on that team? You got Keyshawn Boutte, that Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and Trey Palmer before he transferred to Nebraska. All these guys are all in the NFL. And it took a minute for him once he transferred to TCU to break out, and he broke out his senior year. He's 6'1", 214, solid frame. He's not a burner, but he'll be strong. Contested catches. He's great with his route tree and, great blocker. He'll catch over the middle. He's not afraid to catch over the middle. I know it sucks, but Puka Nacua vibes, being a late guy, peaked at the Senior Bowl. And I mean, hell, at the Senior Bowl, he was MVP in this, and he had 6 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown at the Senior Bowl. He played with a heavy heart, with his story about his brother Tiger being, killed in the terrorist attack in New Orleans on January 1st. But from a perspective of fantasy, I think if he lands in a great system, I really love his ability to come out and score us points for fantasy. And he's going to be on the field with being a elite blocker at the wide receiver position. I just like what he's going to be. He is a Lewy rookie of the week for me.
That's a great breakdown of Jack Beck for sure. The most underrated thing for his game that I've seen is if you look at his college numbers, he had a season where he played primarily in the slot. He had a season where he played primarily outside. Then he had a season before that where he was a tight end.
Yep.
So this Jack Beck, once he gets a job, he's not coming off the field. My comp for him initially was Eric Decker meets Mike Williams. Kind of guy, he goes up, he attacks the ball. You're not going to get a lot of drops. He's not the kind of wide receiver that you're going to see kind of peel off towards the sideline on a run play. He'll probably be the guy that's shoving you in the ass, putting you in the end zone, and then you're getting a headbutt from him. So I'm excited for Beck. His story it's like, no wonder people say the NFL, it's scripted or whatever, because you can't make stuff like that up.
Yeah.
You just overcome adversity again and again. When he scored that touchdown in the Senior Bowl to win the game,
yep,
I got hit with emotions.
Feel the goosebumps coming up.
Yeah, it just happened again, man.
Yeah, exactly. I feel it too. It's just a good story to hear, and how he's coming over the adversity, a month before, wearing number 7 in honor of his brother at the Senior Bowl. Love it.
Now he's going to get what he deserves.
Yes, definitely. He made himself money and memories, at the Senior Bowl.
I couldn't imagine making dinner if my brother died, let alone getting drafted in the NFL. It's just incredible to me.
I totally agree with you. I mean, you already touched on, but if you want to mention your rookie of the week as well.
Again, it's SMU running back Brashard Smith. If you want to find out more about what I have to say, there's probably a dozen posts on X, and I will be dropping episode number 1 of the 3&D podcast once we jump off of here. There's a little surprise in there with Brashard Smith, so I would tune in.
Definitely. Hey, man, thanks for joining the show today. We're wrapping things up. We're already over the hour like we had thought. Dustin, Dynasty D, tell everyone again where they could find everything of your work and what you're up to.
All of my work is going to be found on PlayerProfiler Now, plus YouTube, X, basically anywhere. I'm working behind the scenes with Player Profiler. We just dropped our 2025 rookie guide, so go ahead and check that out. You can use promo code DEGEN and get a discount on that too. But yeah, I just want to shout out the whole team over at Profiler Now. Everybody's been crushing it. We put out more news blurbs than ever during the combine in this season. We have guys writing their first articles. We have new podcasts coming out. You've been coming in clutch at night and dropping the heat for in the morning. So I'm just excited, man. The team here is killing it, and it's going to be a great 2025 season for Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Yes, sir. Well, that's a wrap of Player Profiler News Primetime. Again, huge thanks to Dynasty D for joining me on the show and being my first guest. If you enjoy the show, be sure to follow, like, subscribe for expert analysis and fantasy tips. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Player Profiler Now. You can follow myself at Lewy Lewis 5 and give my podcast Fantasy End Zone a listen to. I'll see you fantasy heads later, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.